Yo, Vaporman here. Long video but short message. Please, if you haven't already, get your submissions into the Senate inquiry for tobacco harm reduction. This is an exciting opportunity that is going to run out on November 5th. If you've been thinking about doing it but haven't quite done it yet, get it done. Tell anybody else who you think would be interested in this to get it done. Yeah, you don't have to give your name. You can have it be an anonymous submission if you would like. And yeah, go to the AFRA website, look at the link below this video for any further information on it. This is our one opportunity to let the politicians know where we stand, okay? For the rest of this video, go make yourself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or just turn up the volume and start cleaning the house. I'm just going to be reading the top 10 submissions, not the top 10, but the first 10 submissions that have been published so far on the Parliament's website. I'll put that link in the description below. But let's jump into it and let's see what has already been published for the public record. And keep in mind, if you feel like you're right on this issue, if you know that vaping has helped you stop smoking and that you believe that it can help others to stop smoking as well, this is your chance to be put on the public record. You know, in a few years' time, your grandchildren may stumble across, you know, their history of their family, and this will be on the public record. So now's your opportunity. Get it done well before November 5th. Currently, there's a bit over 30 submissions. I'd like to see that get to, look, if only 1% of the people that signed the petition write in, we're looking at 700 submissions. Just 1% of the people who signed the petition. This is very important and very effective to let the people who will ultimately make the decision on whether nicotine is legal for vaping or not, this is the information they're going to read through as a public exchange. So get it done. The first letter, submission number 1, no name, just an anonymous letter. I was a smoker for 33 years. I started when I was 12 years old. I found vaping, and since that day I have not wanted a cigarette. Vaping saved my life. I have tried everything to stop smoking. I have worked with my GP, gave me scripts for nicotine patches. I tried gum, Champix, hypnotherapy, cold turkey. None of them worked. Vaping nicotine helped because it felt like I was smoking, and the vapor tastes nice, unlike cigarettes, but without the thousands of chemicals that we all know kill 21,000 Australians each year. How is it 12-year-olds can go to the supermarket and pick up NRT products? These NRT products have flavors with bright colored packaging that are child height on shelves. People can go to every corner shop, supermarket, service station and buy cigarettes without issue. But if you want vapors to get a prescription, but you want vapors to get a prescription. We are people trying to quit smoking. We are not sick. We don't need doctors to manage us. This prescription model will send 100,000 plus people back to smoking combustible cigarettes. The TGA and politicians have a duty of care. You all know the dangers of smoking combustible cigarettes. We need regulations that help small businesses who know what they are doing. We should be able to go to brick and mortar vape shops who sell low-dose nicotine e-liquid with a device that suits the customer to quit smoking. If you can get cigarettes and NRT products in any vape shop in any suburb, we should be able to get nicotine vape products without prescription. The prescription model can't work without all GPs being able and willing to prescribe nicotine. Let's work together with the industry to come to a working model like they have in the UK and New Zealand for a healthier Australia. Well said. That was an anonymous submission. Once again, you can make your admission yeah, we can put the submission in without your name is basically what I'm trying to say. Submission number 2. Like many boys growing up in the 50s and 60s, smoking was perceived as cool and tough. So like an idiot, I joined behind the bike shed crew along with the other wannabes. I smoked through university and into my working life. My wife was a smoker, CRT, and our children were R2. In April 2017, I was trying to save money for a trip to the USA and was struggling to save as fast as I wanted. The previous year, I had spent 6 months trying to get rid of a hacking cough and constant cold. After some 45 years, I was also getting sick of yellow fingers, stink breath, and clothes and a smelly fart. Smelly flat. This gave me the motivation to do something about the whole situation. My workmates who sat outside as pariahs were split into smokers and vapors. I was fascinated by their gear, and when they explained the cost benefits, I was sold. And that was without even discussing health benefits. Halfway through a pack of Menthol 30, I decided enough was enough, and the day after work, called into Hello Banana. And got for $30, got a vape pen and 15 mils of menthol 20 milligram. Fortunately enough, charged to use that evening. The half pack I gave away at work the next day. Soon I learned 15 mils of liquid was not the best way to buy juice. So I graduated to 100 ml bottles and now spend around $1, not a typo, a week on juice. I get tanks and bats from China for $1.50 each. No exploding batteries in nearly 3 years either. So moving to the health benefits from the obvious financial advantages. No yellow fingers, no stink breath, fresh clothes, sweet smelling flat and vehicle. No colds or coughs of note, good BP results, eating better now, I can taste food and have lost weight, and apart from my non-related other ailments actually feel more sprightly. Well, very almost. My dog Minty and I can now walk 3 kilometers a day. He's 12 and my 63 needs the exercise. As we enjoy this in the morning together. This has been the second best thing I have ever done in my life. Marrying my wife will always be the first. And a call I would highly recommend to any current smoker who is considering finances or health. Go for it. Call your local vape shop, not a convenience like me, and get some really experienced advice. Once again, another great submission. These are all great examples. Okay. My name is blank. I'm 39. I work in IT support in a relationship with no children, living in blank. I started smoking at the age of 15 and I've smoked for 20 years since that. I paid $10 to $20 for a pack of cigarettes until the price hikes and kept paying when they were $30, $35 a packet. I'd go through a pack a day. Due to smoking, I had issues with varicose veins, diabetes, and other respiratory issues. I tried quitting with gum, patches, sprays, and none of that worked for me. I may have attempted 2 to 3 times before going back to smoking, until I tried vaping. I started dual usage of cigarettes and vaping in 2016, in which I was weaned off the cigarettes as the more I vaped, the more cigarettes tasted horrible. That period took me 2 weeks of completely quitting smoking tobacco. Since then, my health has improved. My breathing got better, able to work out at the gym, my diabetes is in control, type 2, and my varicose veins have disappeared. Thanks to vaping, I've been able to appreciate tasting and smelling things more, and my girlfriend prefers the smell of fruits and desserts than the tar of smoke. I still look to this day that I am glad, shocked, and relieved that I no longer a smoker after 20-year habit. I'm no longer a smoker after 20-year habit. Due to my experience and success with vaping, I am a strong believer that this product should be available from a vape shop with highly knowledgeable staff, proper product regulation with safety standards, strict identity checks like a Bottle-O, child-proof caps, and much more. These new regulations will not work for me due to having to find a certified practitioner that will supply me a prescription so that I don't lapse on my smoke-free lifestyle. To have the freedom to be able to obtain liquid with nicotine at a respectable vendor or supplier that follows proper regulations will not only help me stay smoke-free, but allow many others to quit smoking with an alternative choice. Now, the name and the location of this individual was blanked out. They may or may not have a prescription. If that's a worry for you, keep in mind that if it is published, you can let them know that you do not want your name or your location or your personal details published. On to submission number 4. My name is James Reed. Good on you, James. I am 57 years old and smoked for over 40 years. I had many unsuccessful attempts to give up cigarettes over the years. I tried everything to give up and have lost count of the number of times I've tried cold turkey, only to fail miserably and return to smoking combustible tobacco. I sought help from numerous GPs on numerous occasions and have tried most approved customer products, from nicotine patches, gums and inhalers to nasal sprays, lozenges, even natural remedies such as Lobila, etc. I'm not sure what that is. I was signed up to quit organizations on multiple occasions and even paid out considerable sums of money based on medical practitioners' advice on therapies such as hypnosis, acupuncture. I have been prescribed drugs such as Champex and Zyban, which actually did more harm than good. None of them worked. It was a no-win situation. In about 2007-2008, my workmate and I ordered e-cigarettes from the United States that looked like a cigarette and came with nicotine capsules that fit the filter section. They tasted awful, gave very little vapor and leaked, spat and burnt in your mouth and lips. I was stuck with that awful thing for over 6 months before the capsules ran out, and I just gave up on it due to the difficulty of obtaining replacement capsules and simply went back to smoking. I went back to smoking until May of 2017, 10 years later, when I read a post on Facebook and saw a whole new style of vaping device. I went straight out and set one up and got into vaping overnight. I gave up cigarettes and have never looked back, literally overnight. Luckily, I have a very supportive GP that was willing to write a prescription for me to legally buy and import liquid nicotine from overseas under the TGA's personal importation scheme. I add this nicotine to my e-juice and extract formula and in a controlled environment using all necessary protective equipment. Over the past 3 years, I have reduced my nicotine intake level from 12 milligrams to 3 milligrams and aim to be nicotine-free by May next year. I have been cigarette-free now for 3.5 years and my health has improved no end. One of the biggest eye-openers for me is that my doctor has commented on how much it has helped and improved my health in number of areas. My lung capacity has drastically improved, my blood pressure has reduced, and my sense of taste and smell has returned. My doctor has commented that due to my success, he now suggests vaping to a number of other patients who are long-term smokers and have already tried a range of traditional approved smoking cessation aids. I now administrate a Facebook vaping group with over 1,000 members, and I have helped many people give up cigarettes, live a happier life, healthier life. Because of my involvement with this group, I now advocate for vaping at every opportunity, as I have seen firsthand how much vaping can improve someone's quality of life and just how incredibly successful it is as a tobacco harm reduction therapy. In the past 12 months, my workplace has gone from 1 vapor and 6 smokers to 6 vapors and 1 smoker. He is holding out, but slowly coming around. Good on you. He now owns a vape and has said he will kick tobacco very soon. I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will too. I know there is a strong anti-vaping rhetoric out there, and many studies are quoted to show the evils of vaping, adverse health effects, and supposedly gateway effects to smoking that it can have on youth. These factors are often used to justify a negative approach to vaping, but most of all, it can be easily debunked upon simple research and investigation into the numbers, figures, percentages that they quote. When considering the research and scientific evidence, I would implore you to read between the lines, examine hidden agendas, and look carefully at the credentials of the organizations making the claims, both for and against the benefits of vaping. The conclusion you will arrive at will be your own, but the results of many of these studies can be quite misleading without careful consideration. Hear, hear. I thought about attaching links to any number of studies and scientific evidence and decided against it. There is a plethora of information out there, and I will leave it to those far more qualified than me to refer to specific examples. I will stick to my personal observations, experiences, and anecdotes to plead my case instead. I would ask that while you quite rightly investigate and consider scientific evidence, please don't forget to listen to the personal success stories of everyday Australians like me and like you. To limit access or even ban vape products out of a lack of misinformation and lack of analysis from professionally instituted studies in this country is negligent to say the least. If our government is not prepared to investigate the correct, thorough studies that should at least take into consideration some of the exhaustive studies that have been conducted overseas. Ignorance and limited research is no grounds for instituting regulation or legalization. Why won't our politicians and health legislators recognize this for what it is and what it can do to help the general public give up smoking? Why are they not interested in saving our lives? Is the tobacco tax revenue more important than Australian lives? While there would ultimately be a loss to government tobacco tax revenue from having less smokers, wouldn't we potentially recoup a lot of that through savings made in areas of public spending? Interesting question. Vaping products do not contain tobacco or the hundreds/thousands of harmful chemicals found in combustible tobacco and should not be seen in any context as equivalent to tobacco products. Why then are many states in Australia taking the easy way out and simply including vaping under the existing tobacco control legislation? Nicotine is a whole separate argument. However, in correct dosage, it is no more dangerous than caffeine. Caffeine can also be quite dangerous in levels beyond a safe dose. A sensibly regulated and legislated vaping industry in this country would ensure the safe manufacture, supply and use of nicotine and nicotine juice for vaping-related manufacture, child-proof packaging and labeling, authorized vaping retailers, adult-only point-of-sale regulation, and enforceable legislation, trained and qualified staff at point of sale, and most importantly, a vast reduction in the need for the general public to import, store and handle higher potency liquid nicotine products that quite often wouldn't meet the child safety packaging concerns. Australia needs to catch up to Canada, the UK, the US, New Zealand, and countries across the EU by legalising and regulating smoke-free alternatives to ensure a healthier future for all Australians. For the first time in many years, Australia is seen as lagging behind the rest of the world in smoking cessation rates instead of being a world leader. We are one of the very, very few countries not embracing this relatively new life-saving technology. Since the inception of modern vaping nearly 20 years ago, there has not been a single legitimate report of a death associated with vaping. As I'm sure you are aware, the UK is now openly encouraging its citizens to switch from smoking to vaping and have even had vape retailers open premises in lobbies of their public hospitals. All these countries have recorded large reductions in the prevalence of combustible tobacco smoking in direct relation to the increase of vaping products. Legalising nicotine will ultimately save hundreds and thousands of Australian lives, and it is time for our government to act. Over 520,000 Australians now vape and are desperately trying to save themselves from becoming one of the more than 20,000 Australians that will die from combustible tobacco-related diseases each year. Please do the right thing. Legalise nicotine vaping in Australia. Make vaping products more accessible and help more smokers to quit for good and save their own lives. I thank you. No, I thank you, James Reed. Excellent letter. Next one. Short submission on tobacco harm reduction. I am Richard Pruin, a consumer advocate from the UK. By the way, I believe you can send in messages if you send in submissions from countries if you are not in Australia. The submission is open to anybody, but just please clearly state that you are from a different country if you are submitting something to the Senate inquiry on tobacco harm reduction in Australia. And it is also important because technically without a prescription vaping is illegal. I can see why some people would be sheepish about it. Once again, a lot of these submissions do not have any sort of information and you can do it without identifying yourself. So I continue. Though these regulations concern me because I have relatives in Prahran, Melbourne. These relatives are ex-smokers and I would like to comment on the proposed regulation of electronic cigarettes. I believe they are beneficial in preventing my relatives, aunt and uncle from relapsing to cigarettes. I'm also unable to visit my relatives, so long as vaping remains illegal. I rely on it to prevent my relapse to smoking. James, Richard, I believe you can still come into Australia with your own vaping products. I do not believe you need a prescription if you are not a resident. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe, and also you can smoke over here too and take the gum and everything. It'll only be nicotine for vaping products for Australian citizens. I believe that's the current regulation, but anyway. I have no ties to the tobacco industry and no ties to the vaping industry, although I did own a testing company, BTC Battery Testing, testing electronic cigarettes to the relevant British standards. The company is now no longer trading. The evidence for electronic cigarettes is strong, and the UK is ranked least influenced by tobacco companies in the world. Please see, and then there's a website link there. THR, tobacco harm reduction, is a key element adopted in the UK approach to smoking cessation. The NHS promotes them for stopping smoking. See, and another website, National Health Service, I believe is what NHS stands for. Public Health England contributed to research into vaping, and it is recommended by them. See, another website, Royal College of Physicians report on nicotine without smoke, tobacco harm reduction. See, another website, and that's all the letter is. But it can be short and sweet. It doesn't have to be 2 pages long. That's 1 page, and it's mostly links to more information for the senators to look at themselves. Submission number 6. Hello, firstly, thanks for giving myself and others the opportunity to engage with yourselves. I am a 67 years of age retired male who resides in the UK. Brackets, more of that later, who started smoking at the age of 15 and consumed on average 40 cigarettes per day for a period of 44 years. Maybe for the last 10 to 15, I had made a series of attempts to stop smoking, some more successful than others, but ultimately failed. I have tried these methods: cold turkey, acupuncture, hypnotherapy, nicotine replacement therapy, Vedrilican, Champex, Alan Carr's book. Some worked better than others, but in my case, all failed. I had reached the point that my belief was that nothing could work for me, and I'd basically given up on giving up. I've been there. In late 2012, by pure chance, I was reading one man's account of using e-cigarettes contained within an online Prolec forum. I found this to be instructional and inspirational, and subsequently joined a member of UK e-cigarette forums prior to taking the plunge. Gathered much information and asked many questions from the willing and knowledgeable forum members. Thank you to all the forum members out there too, by the way. I was skeptical but willing to try the method, and behold, within 2 days I had stopped smoking completely and felt completely satisfied with the devices too, chosen flavors and nicotine strength. This was my experience of transitioning away from cigarettes to vaping under early 2013 UK conditions. But for purchased bottle size and nicotine strength, conditions imposed by the EU in its tobacco products directive has changed little from 2013 regarding the ease of access to products. A number of benefits experienced over the ensuing years include: number 1, vastly better bank account. Savings between my wife and I are in the order of £10,000 per annum due to not smoking and replacing with DIY e-juices. 2, health benefits most immediately observed: improved breathing capacity and much reduced cura that caused regular sleep disturbance. Improved appetite as sense of taste was regained. Skin tone also improved from crinkly, flaky variety to something closer to normal. It is all too easy to forget. These benefits, and for others to dismiss as fanciful and imagined. But I maintain and believe that my health was deteriorating at such a pace I wouldn't be writing this submission to you now. It is this belief that makes vapors passionate, possibly bores. But at the end of the day, they are not smoking and fully realize the implications of a return. This also accounts for my submission to yourselves. I have empathy for my fellow Australian vapors, as I couldn't envisage what they had to endure or what is proposed in Australia in the coming months. I do not presume to know sufficient about what policies should be introduced, but simply they should allow nicotine vaping to be made readily available for adults without prohibitive penalties for possession or overly restrictive barriers to availability. Simple safeguards such as child-proof bottle caps and advertisement restrictions are probably all that are required. Following my transition to a safer form of consuming nicotine in early 2013, I have followed the politics and scientific debate very closely. Not only from a UK standpoint, this is purely out of interest to keep me as informed as possible, although malicious opponents suggest that such interest by vapers must be of the paid variety. My interest has no commercial benefit for myself. As a final comment, I have largely concentrated upon vaping in my submission, but heat and burn and snus products should also come under consideration, as I have experience with these also and believe they could be a valuable addition to reducing smoking rates in Australia. I add again that I have zero connection with any tobacco company, but simply can testify that these products would definitely assist smokers. I have read a comment, "We are the most successful nation at reducing smoking rates. Why do we need anything else?" This is paraphrased, but no doubt you will receive a submission among these lines from organizations who are more than happy with the status quo. Maybe from 2010 to 2012 or so that argument may have held some water, but smoking rates have largely stagnated in Australia since then. Far more radical, open-minded approach is called for. Gordon. Thank you very much for your submission, Gordon, and hello to the UK. Submission number 7. To the Committee on Tobacco Harm Reduction, thank you for the opportunity to make a public submission. This issue is one I feel most passionately about. As a now 56-year-old, I was a pack and a half a day smoker for just over 40 years. Jesus. I have tried many times to quit, from cold turkey to using all available cessation tools available, such as nicotine patches, gum, inhalers, nasal sprays, lozenges, etc., and even hypnosis. Nothing worked or even came close to satisfying my craving for cigarettes until I was introduced to vaping. I knew within just 2 days of vaping that I had found a tool that would finally help me kick the disgusting habit. I have now been vaping for just over 18 months and I have not had a cigarette since. Not one single puff. I do not crave cigarettes and consider vaping truly a blessing. As a disability support pensioner, it has considerably improved my quality of life, mine too. Financially being one of the major benefits. I was spending anywhere between $150 to $200 plus per week on cigarettes. As the price went up, I found myself resorting to roll your own and much lower quality tobacco products. Probably talking about Chop Chop, but let's not go there. Which compounds the health issues even more. I, at times, even had to resort to the cheaper illegal chop shop cigarettes, which are readily available and becoming a huge social issue, health problems and ticking time bomb. Vaping now only costs me $5 to $10 per week, to at the most $20 every couple of months, if I need to resupply e-liquid, nicotine or other vaping apparatus. Now I can afford much healthier food and can enjoy a few small luxuries like internet and Foxtel. Cut out the Foxtel. I have actually started saving a few dollars for the first time in many years. I initially started vaping with e-liquid containing 24 milligrams strength nicotine, and I have now gradually reduced that to 3 milligrams. I intend to ultimately be completely nicotine free and eventually stop vaping altogether. Good for you. I cannot begin to describe what this has meant to my life and health. I not only have considerably better lung capacity, stamina, and overall fitness, but my taste and smell has returned. My blood pressure has also come down. Before vaping, it was on the verge of requiring medication to reduce it. I've also introduced vaping to family members and close friends who also smoked for many years, had tried everything but couldn't stop. Some have also been able to kick cigarettes after years of trying. So far, I have a success rate of around 60%, and I'm still working on the others, still teetering or struggling to quit. A few have cut their cigarette intake considerably. It is indeed a great feeling when the successful ones who manage to quit altogether come back and thank me for saving their lives by introducing them to vaping. Vapers, better than anyone, understand and appreciate the concerns of politicians and relevant authorities regarding minors vaping and possibly progressing to smoking. Nobody wants minors to start vaping or smoking. However, surely, as is the case with cigarettes and alcohol, the vaping industry can be regulated to minimize access and protect minors. Specialty outlets like tobacconists and bottle shops with turnstile entry-exit points with photo ID required and tough penalties for any vendors or persons caught selling or supplying minors can be implemented, and are even for devices that do not contain nicotine, unlike the gums and patches. Sorry, I just had to chime in there. We vapers find it hard to understand why vaping is being targeted in such a rushed, unconsidered fashion, which will ultimately destroy the industry entirely, while much more harmful cigarettes is the real problem, are allowed to continue. It makes little sense to those of us who attribute vaping to saving our lives. We find it bewildering and, to be frank, quite insulting. We implore the committee to report favourably to Parliament and to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Vaping is immensely less harmful than smoking and has been experienced by millions across the world. It can be a very useful smoking cessation tool. Hear. I really hope our Australian government will take the sensible science-based approach as the UK and the Royal College of Physicians has. Please do not ban vaping or over-regulate so as to make it virtually unworkable, as the needlessly oppressive and overly regulated nicotine prescription model being proposed by some is likely to result in. Vapers have to be able to easily apply for permission to purchase small amounts of nicotine without they or doctors having to jump through endless hoops. There has to be a happy medium where minors are protected, but adults struggling with cigarette addiction can still readily access vaping as a cessation tool. Common sense regulations with severe penalties for anyone breaking those regulations would be a good outcome for all concerned. Thank you for your consideration. Please, please, please don't take this tool away from smokers who have tried everything else. Vaping works. Kind regards. Submission number 8. My name is Shane Kerrigan. I am the proud owner of iVape Australia. We have 2 stores in Queensland dedicated to helping people take back their health, wealth and happiness by quitting smoking. My personal journey with vaping started more than 8 years ago after the birth of my youngest son. My wife and I had been smokers all of our adult lives, and although we knew the dangers, we had been unable to successfully quit smoking using any of the conventional methods available. We had both tried pills, patches, gums, with no joy, and basically resigned to the fact that we were smokers and would probably smoke until tobacco-related disease killed us like it does 20,000 Australians each and every year. Sad, right? After my youngest was born, my wife decided she would try this new e-cig thing that she had seen online and that had been of the cigarettes during her pregnancy, and this would be great opportunity to try something new and hopefully not go back to smoking like she had done after the birth of our other 2 children. So we went ahead and purchased our first vapes and online and keenly awaited their arrival. When they finally turned up, we had little to no idea how to use them, and at this time there wasn't many videos on YouTube showing how. I remember thinking mine was broken as I couldn't even turn it on. These first moments with our new devices were frustrating to say the least, but we persisted and got them working. The e-liquid we had at the time was non-nicotine, and as such, I was really struggling. My wife had been without nicotine for 8 months or so of her pregnancy, so she was doing okay, but I was still smoking all the way through. So I was finding it almost impossible to stop smoking, and although I had cut back, I was still smoking. Then I ordered e-liquids that contain nicotine. The very first day I added nicotine to my vape was the last day I had a cigarette. This was clearly a game changer. I was getting everything I had enjoyed from the cigarette, but without the danger that comes with inhaling the byproducts of combustible tobacco. I found the transition easy and have never had a single cigarette since. When my friends that knew me well say that I wasn't smoking anymore with the help of this vaping thingy, they were astonished. I was a hardcore smoker and they had a slew of questions, including, "Can you please get me one?" We helped our friends out by showing them where we had purchased our devices and helped them through the confusion of how to use their new devices. As our friends found success and stopped smoking, their friends were equally amazed with their ability to remain smoke-free, and now we were continually being asked if we could help supply our friends with a vape. iVape Australia was born. During the time that we had owned and operated our business, we have helped thousands of people discover a new way of life, free from the perils of combustible tobacco. Not smoking changes your life in was you could only imagine. Health implications of not smoking are significant and money saved in what is the most expensive country in the world to smoke is truly life-saving. We have seen customers take back their lives and do amazing things for their families with this newfound freedom. We have seen people who had previously lived paycheck to paycheck, able to save and pay off credit cards. We have seen people living their dreams in the form of buying nice cars and even houses in some cases. We have seen the massive improvements to people's health, wealth, and happiness. The unprecedented prescription-based model proposed by the Therapeutics Good Administration is not the best way forward for this little life-saving technology. Whilst I do support sensible, merit-based regulations that make our products safer, I do not support this presentation-based model that will put more red tape in the way and slow or halt the progress made by ex-smokers or vapers. This feels like another blatant attempt by our Australian government to feather their own nests. Our government seems to be only interested in money and not genuinely interested in the health and well-being of its citizens. If this were not true, cigarettes would have been banned 50 years ago. Vaping is the greatest weapon there has ever been in the new fight against tobacco harm and should be made more readily available, not made harder to obtain by hiding it behind red tape and tax grabs. Banning importation of e-liquids containing nicotine and passing prescription-based model to supply these products will reduce the availability and variety, leading to more Australians being unable to quit smoking. We will maintain the status quo, which unfortunately is the government making money whilst people die. And these people are real people with real hopes and dreams. Real people with families that love them. People's mums and dads. People's brothers and sisters. Real people. I support sensible regulation of the manufacture and supply of e-liquids containing nicotine. I do not support your prescription-based model that will retard this life-saving technology. Thank you for taking the time to read my submission. If you would like to contact me further to discuss my knowledge of this industry, please don't hesitate to reach out. There are not many with such deep understanding of this industry as my wife and myself. We were one of the first and potentially longest running vaping retail outlets here in Australia. Once again, Shane Kerrigan. And to all people who found vaping and then started their own shop, you really need to get a submission in. I mean, not just for the benefits of helping to reduce smoking in Australia, but also for the sake of your own business. You have no excuse not to get a letter like this in. And another example, submission number 9. My name is Yvette Hopkins. I am 45 years of age. I am employed as an administration assistant in the health sector. I am married with no children and live in Australia. I grew up in an age where cigarette advertising was plastered on every football match. My parents both smoked, and many of my peers. I was first introduced to smoking by a friend when I was about 10. I refused the cigarette, saying, "I smoke, I just don't want one." I'm sure my friend didn't believe me. At the age of about 15, I started stealing my mum's smokes, one here and there. Not long afterwards, I started buying my own. I gave up once I was 20 years old. I had noticed a wheezing nose at night when trying to fall asleep. I held my breath and realized I was making the wheezing noise. I had never had respiratory issues before this, and I realized that smoking was the cause, so I gave up, but that only lasted for 18 months. Over many years since that time, my husband and I have repeatedly tried to stop smoking. Quitting together, they say, is easier. That wasn't the case for us. We tried all manner of ways to quit, swapping to cigars so we would smoke less, cold turkey, nicotine patches. They gave me a rash and were itchy. It was a constant reminder of trying to quit. Nicotine lozenges. They gave me painful mouth ulcers. Nicotine gum. Didn't satisfy the cravings and made my jaw ache. More recently, I read about Champix and Zyban and considered trying those, but unfortunately, having pre-existing anxiety issues, I discounted them as unsuitable. I had enough mental health issues already. A recent consultation with a new doctor indicated that these items would be contradicted in my situation. About 8 years ago, my mum, who had also struggled to quit smoking all my life, started using a vape pen and nicotine e-liquid. Mum used the vape pen, slowly reduced nicotine intake, and eventually gave up. She was free and had not been smoked She was free and has not smoked or vaped since. My sister and her fiance started vaping too. They no longer smoke, only vape. My husband and I came across a television show from the United Kingdom where they did a small trial of smokers giving up vaping versus smoking by traditional methods. The show showed a chemical analysis of both the smoke from cigarettes versus vapor from e-cigarettes, the vapor having much less of an impact on live cells. The people who vaped were successful as, if not more successful than traditional methods. We were both surprised at the result, and this was the impetus for more research on my behalf. I read medical journals and joined a vaping forum. I observed what was posted on these forums for a long time before I decided that this could work for my husband and I. Very few people on these forums had negative health issues regarding vaping, and many of them have vaped for over 3 years. We both discussed it, and I purchased a couple of vape pens and some nicotine e-liquid. The next day, even though we had tobacco in the house, I was determined that I would not have a cigarette and I would use the vape pen instead. I have not had a cigarette since then. My husband dual used for about a week, but he has since told me he didn't want to waste the tobacco. He didn't want to waste the tobacco being as expensive as it was to buy. I found out that we needed prescription to import nicotine legally. This was a challenge, finding a doctor that supported this harm reduction smoking cessation technology. Thankfully, I found one, and we both obtained prescriptions online that are no longer available. Once again, get your prescriptions in while you can. It has now been 2 years and 8 months since either of us has had a cigarette, and neither of us want one. We have managed to reduce our nicotine consumption from 12 to 3 and are clearly on our way to 0 milligrams. A lot of people stuck on 3. Now that the health minister and the TGA are determined to introduce these even more restrictive regulations, I am unsure if we will finish the journey we have started. I am proud of my husband for sticking with this. At times, I know he was tempted to return to tobacco as the devices we were using were not the best. But they did the job. We have since changed devices which contributed to lowering our nicotine levels. I am not certain that we will not return to combustible cigarettes, but I'm pretty sure my husband will if he is not able to vape. I have consulted with my doctor for more than 9 months with regard to him writing a prescription for me. When I first asked him for a prescription, he was not opposed to it but could not find it on the prescribing software. So he said he could not give me one. Later, I provided him with the ATHRA information on prescribing nicotine and details of how I felt I fit the RACGP's requirements for e-cigarette use. He has since told me that due to the documentation and difficulty regarding the new regulations and supply of nicotine, he will not supply me with a prescription. I have now had to consult with another doctor via phone to obtain a prescription. Persistence will work. Good on you. Therefore, I see the requirement for a prescription as a waste of my doctor's time, here, and my time, a burden on the health system by taking up appointment times for a prescription for something that properly regulated could be sold as a consumer product as traditional tobacco products are. Great point. In addition to health benefits I have experienced, we also saved a lot of money. 1 year after stopping smoking, we saved $5,850 per year by not buying tobacco. This not only had financial benefits for us, but also the government. My husband suffered a heel injury and required major surgery to repair it. Because we had saved the money by vaping, we paid for the surgery in a private hospital ourselves, not adding to the burden of the public health system, not sitting on a waiting list, unable to work, claiming sickness benefits paid for. Surgery done, back at work within 3 months entirely. The benefits of using nicotine e-liquid are that people will have an alternative to combustible cigarettes, which we are constantly told are deadly. Nicotine e-liquid allows me to satisfy nicotine cravings with at least 95% safer way. At least. In the 2.5 years since I have started using nicotine e-liquid for vaping, my health has improved. I no longer have a chesty wheeze or cough. I have not had a cold or pharyngitis in this period. I am calmer and not having to arrange my day around when I will have my next cigarette, and this makes the effects of my already diagnosed anxiety symptoms much less and easier to manage. I have been able to reduce my nicotine consumption from 12 to 3 milligrams at my own pace. My oral health has improved and my teeth are cleaner, which is interesting because apparently the Dental Association of Australia is anti-vaping. I no longer have stained fingers from smoking cigarettes. I can taste foods better and therefore this helps me to eat healthier food. I am very concerned that if I am not able to continue to source nicotine e-liquid easily, I will return to smoking combustible cigarettes and my health will decline. I do not support regulations regarding e-liquids as I believe them to be restrictive and inconsistent with the way the combustible cigarettes are scheduled. If combustible cigarettes are to remain freely available, nicotine liquids for vaping should be added to the exemption lists in the same way that tobacco prepared and packed for smoking is. Currently on the TGA website, nicotine is currently on the TGA's current regulations is that if you want liquid for vaping, it is a scheduled poison. However, the tobacco in a cigarette packet is exempt from this restriction, which is absolutely insane. As a consumer, the risks of using nicotine e-liquid are low. I am aware of safe handling practices that ensure any e-liquids are kept in child-proof bottles and are kept out of the reach of children. I believe that nicotine e-liquid should be sold as a consumer product with appropriate safety measures to avoid youth uptake. I strongly believe that every current smoker should have the choice to access nicotine e-liquid as an alternative to current NRT replacement therapies. For some of us, NRT simply doesn't work, and the opportunity to be able to reduce harm of toxic combustible cigarette smoking will do a great deal to reduce the health burden on our country, save thousands of lives, and improve the lives of many thousands more. Yours sincerely, Yvette Hopkins. Good on you, Yvette. Last one, submission 10. There are more on the website for the public submissions. Look at the link in the description below. Read through them. And yes, please, once again, if you've listened this far now and you haven't submitted, now is the time to submit. Even if they don't get published publicly, somebody will still have to read them. Be polite, and just tell your story, or look at all the different examples that have been published. If you're stuck on what to write, there is also a template below here that outlines ATHRA's exact directions for what one might put into one of these things. Here we go, submission number 10. My name is Marine Steele, 51. I and my partner, blank, 55, have been vaping for 18 months. We both work for the New South Wales Ministry of Health as health education officers in different local health districts in Sydney. We do not have children. Excuse me, just lost it there. History. I started smoking at age 18 and smoked about 10 to 15 cigarettes per day until the age of 30, and then about 4 to 6 a day until 18 months ago. My partner started smoking at age 21 and smoked 5 to 10 a day until 18 months ago. Before we started vaping 18 months ago, we bought a pouch for $50 a week and a packet of cigarettes for about $35, totaling $85 a week. At the moment, my partner still smokes 1 to 2 cigarettes a day, costing about $18 a week. He has noticed that with the increased price, he is more likely to smoke a cigarette down to the filter, whereas in the past, he might put it out halfway through. Experiences with NRT and other quit methods. We have both tried to quit on numerous occasions, too many to count. We have both tried to stop cold turkey many times. We tried patches when they were available. We tried patches when they became available. Patches helped us to cut down a bit, but had side effects. I experienced excessive sweating and sleep disturbance. My partner had bad headaches. We have tried each new format of NRT when it has become available, including gum, lozenges, sprays, and inhalers. I found the spray worked best, and managed to stop for a fortnight, but even this was not successful long term. We both tried Champex and stopped smoking within a week, but then experienced suicidal ideation, which was very frightening. Experience with vaping. We both started vaping 18 months ago. I gradually cut down and stopped smoking cigarettes completely in a 3-month period. My partner has had periods of only vape use and periods of vaping and smoking 2 cigarettes a day. He swapped between the 2 patterns, but says it has been approximately 50-50 for each pattern over the past 18 months. He is about to increase his e-liquid strength to 16 milligrams in an attempt to stop smoking cigarettes. Benefits. Vaping costs us a maximum of $2 a week for both of us. So at the moment we spend $20 a week on nicotine as opposed to $85. Both our lung health has improved dramatically. 3 years ago, my carbon monoxide level was 32 parts per million. Most smokers it is about 17, healthy people it is 3. My carbon monoxide level is now 8, from 32 to 8. We feel as though we can both breathe better and run further for longer. We both haven't experienced as many respiratory infections as previously. Other benefits. Never thought we would ever quit, and vaping doesn't feel like quitting 100%, we agree, but it is so much better. What we want. The best solution would be to follow the rest of the world and make nicotine liquid available from specialist shops that is regulated to ensure people under 18 cannot access the product. We want the product to be safe with the creation of safety standards to ensure high quality of product, childproof caps, warning labels, etc. If this can't happen, then we want the current regulations to continue where we can import from overseas, preferably buy within Australia. We do not support young people taking up smoking or vaping, whether with nicotine or vaping e-flavored liquids. But it is not fair to punish people who have managed to give up smoking by vaping. The short-term benefits have been stated. I do not know about the long-term side effects, but this is true for numerous therapies, e.g. contraceptive pill. And it is not a reason to disallow it, especially considering we know how many people die directly as a result of smoking cigarettes. Those were the first 10 submissions. I would like to see hundreds. There are 500,000 vapors here. There are 70,000 signatures on petitions. if we can get 1% of those 70,000 people to write a submission similar to this, it can be long, it can be short, it can be personal, it can be fact-based. Just do it, it's good therapy too. And let the politicians know how you feel and where you stand. If you don't know, now you know!